Hi everyone. Welcome to another episode of Candid Meena. And today we'll have a look at why Akshay Kumar's version of Samrat Prithviraj, failed miserably at the box office. So before we go to the film, we will take a look at the actual history of the great ruler Prithviraj Chauhan. And so this is a portrayal of the great ruler Prithviraj Chauhan and his wife. So Prithviraj Chauhan, he was born in 1166 and he died in 1192. And he was one of the greatest Rajput warrior kings of the Chauhan clan of rulers who established the strongest kingdom in Rajasthan. And Prithviraj's defeat in 1192 in the Second Battle of Tarori at the hands of Muslim leader Muiz al-Din Muhammad ibn Sam, Muhammad Guri, in short, marked a watershed in the medieval history of India. Now, ascending the throne about 1177, the young Prithviraj inherited a kingdom that stretched from Stan Vishwara, which is Tanesar, uh, in the north to Mewar in the south. Within a few years, Prithviraj had personally assumed control of the administration, but shortly after taking power, he was faced with a rebellion from his cousin Nagarjuna, who asserted his own claim to the throne. The revolt was brutally crushed, and Prithviraj turned his attention to the nearby kingdom of the Badanakas. The Badanakas had been a persistent threat to the Chauhan held region around Delhi, but they were so comprehensively destroyed sometime prior to 1182 that they ceased to be mentioned in the subsequent historical records. So, friends, you can see that all this history is why it is not mentioned in the school history textbooks, right? To this detail, as you know that the textbooks in CBSE and all, they sort of glorify Mughal kings, but they do not, tell the real history of the great Hindu kings, right? So Prithviraj defeated Parmardin Deva Chandela, who is the ruler of Jijak Bukti. Although the campaign against the Chandelas enhanced Prithviraj's reputation, it has added to the number of his enemies. And it united the Chandelas and Gardhawalas and forced Prithviraj to increase military expenditures and vigilance on his southeastern frontier. Prithviraj also turned his sword against the powerful kingdom of Gujarat, although little is known about that action. In the course of his aggressive campaigns, he came into conflict with Jayachandra, the Gandhava ruler of Kannauj. Jayachandra was eager to curb Prithviraj's growing ambitions and quest for territorial expansion. Tradition, however, ascribes the immediate cause of the intense and bitter rivalry to a romance between Prithviraj and Jayachandra's daughter Sanyogita. The love of Prithviraj and Sanyogita and the princess's eventual abduction have been immortalized in Chand Bardey's epic Prithviraj Raso. The event is popularly believed to have occurred after the first battle of Tarori in 1191 and shortly before the second battle of Tarori in 1192. But the history of the Sanyogita episode remains a matter of debate even now. While Prithviraj gathered fame as a romantic and dashing general, Muhammad Gur or Muhammad Guri was trying to assert his own authority in northern India by consolidating. He was trying. Muhammad Guri was also trying to expand in India, in northern India at this point of time, his empire, and that included acquiring Sindh, Multan, and Punjab to supplement his dominions of Ghazna and Gur. Towards the end of 1190, Muhammad Gur captured Bathinda, which formed part of Prithviraj's empire. As border raids by Muhammad Gur's forces increased in frequency and intensity, the Chauhan representative in Delhi requested assistance from Prithviraj, who immediately marched against Muhammad Gur. The two armies met in 1191 at Tarori, about 70 miles north of Delhi. Amid fierce fighting, Muhammad Guri was seriously injured and his forces withdrew in disarray. Muhammad Guri raised a a far stronger army consisting of forces um, like the Persians, Afghans, and Turks. And in 1192, he advanced again on Tarori. Prithviraj mustered a vast force to meet Muhammad Ghuri, but infighting and enmity within the Rajput camp and had weakened his position. So Prithviraj Chauhan, really took it to this Mughal ruler Muhammad Ghuri, who had a huge army, from people of army from people from various parts of the world like Persians, Afghans, Turks. So Prithviraj Chauhan was one of the most courageous Hindu rulers we've ever had, and it is you know and unfortunately, Bollywood has never made any accurate, historically accurate film even now, dedicated to this great ruler. Now, Prithviraj mustered a vast force to meet Muhammad Ghuri, but infighting and enmity with the Rajput within the Rajput camp had weakened his position. So, at this point of time, Prithviraj, there was a lot of enmity within his own camp, right? And whereas the first battle hinged on the numerical weight that Prithviraj's forces could bring to bear on the flanks of the Ghurid army, the second was a study in mobility. Muhammad Ghuri used mounted archers to harass Prithviraj's front lines. When elements of Prithviraj's army broke ranks to engage in pursuit, they were destroyed by heavy cavalry. The change in tactics confounded the Chauhan forces, and Prithviraj's host was routed. Prithviraj fled the battleground, but he was overtaken and captured a short distance from the site of the battle. The king and many of his generals were subsequently executed, and the collapse of the organized resistance in northern India led to the Muslim control of the region within a generation. So that's how Mughal rule came to India. Now coming to the film, which Akshay Kumar made or acted in, which is Samrat Prithviraj, dedicated to this great ruler. Now, why did it sort of flop? If you remember that Akshay Kumar tweeted, just before the release of the film, that it took 18 years of research, 2 years of VFX, and three COVID waves later, they have released this film. Now, only in Bollywood you know, can they make a film which, and that to a great historical hero such as Prithviraj Chauhan, and that can become a flop, unfortunately. Why? Right? So if any movie like which comes from Telugu or South Indian film industry, that has the potential to become a very big blockbuster. And we have seen a lot of patriotic movies down south from Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, becoming which are patriotic films, and they have become huge hits like RRR, you know. So and Kalapani. But how come this film became a huge flop, right? There are numerous reasons as to why this film became a huge flop. Firstly, it casts Akshay Kumar. Now, Akshay Kumar, as you know, after the SSR unfortunate demise of Sushant Singh Rajput and the whole murder mystery, Akshay Kumar was at the brunt of the boycott Bollywood movement. And you remember that in Twitter that Akshay Kumar, in Instagram, his Instagram account, Akshay Kumar, came live on Instagram, and he pleaded with the masses to, go and watch his movies and, not sort of, like, and he pleaded to the SSRians, the SSR warriors, that too, especially. And after that, none of his films really sort of became hit. And I really doubt that Suryavanshi was a big hit, personally. After this, he had all these flops like Lakshmi Bomb. Then he had Bachchan Pandey. Now, it is coming back to this film, is that this film cast Akshay Kumar with this lady who is just around her early 20s. Her and She is Manushi Chiller, and she was the Miss World. And this is like, you know, people think that if you're, I mean, Bollywood at least thinks that if you have won Miss World, that you have you will be successful in acting, and that's what she thought, that she'll be successful like Aishwarya Rai, who acted in Jodha Akbar. So this looks very much like Jodha Akbar to me, and this the at least the producer and director of the film thought that this will be sort of a success like Jodha Akbar. So now, what are some of the other reasons which sort of made this film a flop? So if you remember that this is a scene from Houseful 4, and Akshay Kumar was called as Bala, and he was a comedian in this particular film. And look at his look in this particular film, and have a look at this particular film, which is some Prithviraj, Samrat Prithviraj. It looks exactly the same. Look at his mustache in Samrat Prithviraj, and also look at his mustache in Houseful 4, in which he plays a comedic character known as Bala. So they have put zero effort in uh, at least the character build up in this film. That is point number one. And also, they thought that since people, or big film stars like Yash or and Alu Arjun are taking so much of time, and effort to sort of make these great hit films like Pushpa, RRR, KGF, that a significant makeover of a reasonably established superstar in that film industry, in this case it is Akshay Kumar, will make a sure hit with the masses. At least in the minds of the producer of this film, he thought that this film will become a big hit because, number one, it's a patriotic film, and number two, it stars Akshay Kumar. And with these 2 points in mind, the producers of this film thought that this film will become a huge box office hit. But people have seen through Bollywood's so-called brand of nationalism, and unfortunately for Bollywood, that game plan is no longer working, because they thought that after the SSR sort of movement and the boycott Bollywood movement, that Bollywood could get back in track by making patriotic and nationalistic films. But that's not the case, and people have understood this particular game plan of Bollywood, and people have started watching South Indian films and film stars, and those films have become the mainstay in the Indian film scene. Now, looking at some of the other reasons, is this lady, or this Manushi Schiller, there is no sort of chemistry, as you see in this particular picture, between Akshay Kumar as Prithviraj and Manushi Schiller as Sanyogita. There is zero chemistry, and also there's a huge age difference between both of them. Now, no sort of PR from Akshay Kumar, or in fact, Amit Shah promoted this film, if you remember, and and like, looking at all these things, the producers thought that this film will become a big hit. Now, coming to the number two is from showing more of a love story that never happened to showing Gori as a honorable man. So they project Gori as an honorable man, from showing Prithviraj as sort of a feminist, to not showing a single atrocity of the Islamic invaders. And so they have not shown any strong scenes of Islamic invaders in this particular film. And everywhere it's like the woke liberal whitewashing is seen. And this is one of the reasons. And as I've stated before, this whole film, they have had a lot of VFX scenes, and Akshay Kumar has put zero effort in making his looks unique, and he's also very very slim. Akshay Kumar is very very lean, I must say, and that doesn't gel with a historic film character who should be rather stout. Just like we have Bahubali, in which we have people like the lead character Prabhas, who's very stout. So now the next point is they made the whole movie on a green screen. If you can imagine, this whole film was made on a green screen in a studio. So the war looks very artificial. It doesn't look something like the war scenes from like Bahubali, or I would say Game of the Thrones, or any of those great film series, and or even RRR. So the effort was very minimal in terms of production values. And why did Prithviraj sort of fight with Gori? How Rajput protected India from invaders? And what atrocious brutality was committed by Islamists at that period of time, or by the Mughals? Why women committed Jauhar? All this was not explained in the film. So, as you see that they have not highlighted all these points in this film, and it is only Bollywood's version of the history of the great ruler Prithviraj Chauhan, and they have not shown any of the atrocities of the Mughal rulers at that point of time. And many other points is that no mention of how bad the situation was for Hindu women at the Mughal, uh, during the Mughal rule, during the Mughal invasion. How they sort of sold Hindus as sex slaves, and all the atrocities. They are not highlighted these sort of points in the film. And there was a scene, if you can imagine, where Sanyogita is seen dancing before Jauhar after her husband died. So what was that scene all about? So ultimately, like Bollywood wants to show the great some of the one of the greatest Hindu rulers in history as a wishy-washy ruler. That's what, at least what, in my opinion, this film projects to me, in my opinion. And they sort of it seemed like they were whitewashing the Mughal ruler, as the rule of Mughal rulers and the atrocities committed by Mughal rulers against the Hindus, right? And these are some of the points which came into my mind. And also, if you remember that Akshay Kumar's last outing or last film was Bachchan Pandey, and that also flopped in the box office big time. Now, taking all these points into consideration, my question to you, viewers, is that do you think that the career of Akshay Kumar is, over? Do you think that Akshay Kumar's, value in the Bollywood film industry is nearly over with this back-to-back flops, and that people have seen through his real character? He's been seen driving with a Pakistani businessman, Anil Musarat, right? Why was he, driving with a Pakistani businessman who has alleged ISI links, right? And at the same time, Akshay Kumar sort of he never sort of supported or the CBI or the SSR, the CBF or SSR case. Also, he never raised his voice. And as you know that he also pleaded with people to come and watch his films on Instagram 2 years back, right? So, taking all these points into consideration, what is your opinion? Do let us know in the comments below, and make sure to hit the like button and share it with your friends, and also share it with as many people as possible, so that awareness is spread, so that people don't believe the wrong version of history, or at least the young people don't believe the wrong version of history. Because as you know that the history of the great Hindu rulers is sort of not highlighted very much in the history textbooks of CBSE and many other state syllabuses and central syllabuses in India, and only the Mughal rules are glorified, right? So it's high time that through by sharing this videos and spreading awareness, that at least the young people of India know what the true history, the true great history of India is. So that's all for today, and have a good evening. Bye.